doing any door-to-door. Your vote on SSPTV News.
Okay, ready?
And show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Your Vote 2020 live via Zoom. Yes, we're via Zoom and also on our YouTube channel, Samson Productions. And remember, you can watch us anytime on SSPTV channel 13 and 513. Interesting night tonight. We have a number of guests that will be coming on via Zoom, plus our regular panel. I want to tell everyone that it's going to be interesting. This has been a challenge for everyone. I'm sure you all saw the polls today as the weight, the lines, etc., and everything that's going on. So we're going to come back, talk to our panel. Our first guest via Zoom will be Ned Doherty. And Ned was on the show, talked about a conspiracy. And interesting enough, the Archbishop Vicano also had a letter going to the Pittsburgh paper talking about conspiracies. So Ned will respond to some of that. So first of all, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Blaze Alexander, Boyers, Favela Law, the Slusser Law Firm, All Care Home Care, Brass Buckle, The Arts Barn, Vito's Lawn, Attorney Holman, Christine Holman, BCI, and Vito's Cold Pizza and Restaurant. I thank you very much. We'll be back right after these messages.
Come dine your way at the Brass Buckle Restaurant. We have the perfect setting for
Your vote on SSPTV News.
Welcome back to Your Vote 2020. I'd like to introduce the panel, folks. No stranger to our election coverage. We have a newcomer tonight. Get to her in a second. I'd like to welcome Mike Picosmo. Mike, how are you tonight?
Sam, I'm doing fine. I hope you're doing well.
We're doing fine. It's an interesting challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. One of the toughest ones, one of the longest ones we've ever seen. I saw stuff at the polls today I've never experienced in my lifetime. I thought I was being a smart guy. I went down Hazel Township 6:45. I thought I was going to beat the rush. There had to be 500 people. There were cars parked down 93 down the Garrity's Food Market. I turned around, went over my office for about another hour, went up to 8 o'clock mass, came back 8:30. It was still just as crowded at 8:30 as it was at 6:45. I finally went back about 10:30. Honestly, it only took me 10 minutes to vote then, but I never saw lines. I never saw crowds like I saw for this election. Just incredible.
And of course, we have Rick Morelli. Rick, how are you?
Hey, Sam, it's always a pleasure to be here with you and the rest of the team on election night. It's always fun. As you can tell, I'm here at the Swing Club, which is a historical club here in Hazleton, Luzerne County. It's a packed crowd waiting for the results here tonight with the election. And again, really looking forward to the results and what takes place. As you know, Pennsylvania is the center point of this national election. And I think there's going to be a lot of tension on what's taking place, where the votes are going, and really looking forward to seeing what takes place here tonight, both on a national side as well as even on a local side, congressional as well as state rep. So looking forward to having a great discussion as always.
And of course, historian Charles McAwee. Charles, how are you this evening?
Great, Sam. Good to see you. I imagined our viewers tonight, everyone, people's nerves are frayed. This has been a rough year, and we will likely not even know the election results today. But, just driving around the Hazleton area this morning, going down Main Street in Cunningham, it was remarkable, the lines that just never seem to end. Just a steady pace throughout the day. And it's really important tonight because we're providing analysis in the area that helped fuel 60% of Donald Trump's winning margin in 2016. Luzerne County delivered Pennsylvania to Trump then. This time he's up against Joe Biden, of course, who is a native of northeastern Pennsylvania. Will that offset those types of margins? It remains to be seen. But regardless, we are in the heart and soul of what makes Pennsylvania a battleground.
And of course, joining us tonight, Lawrence Sacco. I want you to know, Lawrence, Lauren, I am using the Sacco chiropractic pen that I was able to get at your husband's office. So I'm hoping everything I write is going to be perfect tonight. Lauren, welcome and joining our panel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I have big shoes to fill for tonight in place of Tara Toohill, who is in her race tonight, wishing her well. We're on the cusp of something big and historic here, both on a local level and on a national level. And we have been through hell and back as a community and as a country these last 8 months, and hopefully tonight sets us straight and puts us all back on course.
Lauren, being a councilwoman, working with the council people and the mayor, and the focus on this area and how important it is, how do you see things?
At this point in time in Hazleton, you have never had a better lineup. You have a council that fully stands behind the mayor. We are coming up with good ideas. We are working as one. And we really started off with a couple rocky months, as did everyone, with the COVID and everything that set into play. But we are getting back on course, and the budget's coming out next, and we're looking to rock on hard and kick off the new year on a good foot note.
Well, I'm seeing things improving, and it's just good to hear. Michael, we're going to try to get, before we get Ned Doherty on, give me your appraisal, Michael, of what you think is going to happen in the state of Pennsylvania.
State of Pennsylvania, Sam, anytime I've been on your show for the last, I think, 30 years, that's how far back my election night experience goes back. I always try and analyze everything in terms of numbers. And in politics, Sammy, it's an addition game, not a subtraction game. And let's just start at Luzerne County. Luzerne County, I see the Republican Party, since last election, Charles pointed out, won Luzerne County last time by some 22,000 votes. Republicans picked up another 7,000 votes since last presidential election in Luzerne County. Statewide, they picked up 110,000 votes on the Democrats, and Trump won the state last time by 44,000 votes. So based on pure new registrations, I think that's going to bode very well for the Trump organization. However, However, Sammy, and again, you have to wonder how much stock you put in the polls. It looks like one of the areas where President Trump lost most of his base was with senior citizens. Last time we know, senior citizens, he won by 7%. This year, the last poll I saw, he's trailing with senior citizens by 15%. That's a 22% swing. In Luzerne County, in the state of Pennsylvania, we have an awful lot of senior citizens. Now, are the senior citizens enough to offset the new Republican registrations? I don't know.
Charlie, your reaction.
Mike's absolutely right about those voter registration trends across the state. And it's not only just playing out in Luzerne County, you're seeing it occur in the Lehigh Valley and other parts of Pennsylvania. So tonight, Greater Hazleton is one of those battleground areas that could deliver surprises. For example, Hazleton in 2016, Trump won the city of Hazleton by just over 300 votes that year. What will the margins look like in the city of Hazleton this time? Will they even be greater for Trump? Or will a Biden victory in the city of Hazleton be offset by just dramatic margins in Trump's favor in the Cunningham Valley and Hazel Township, which is more likely to be the case? But Hazleton is one of these places in the state where we'll see this battle of voting margins play out. And it's not just here, it's in places like suburban Delaware County, which Biden will win, but will some of those suburban precincts outside of West Philadelphia go in Trump's favor because of the urban unrest last week? Then you have suburban Harrisburg, reliably Republican for years, especially like Harrisburg's West Shore. Will some of those margins go in Biden's favor as you see some of that suburban revolt? And of course, you have a place like the Lehigh Valley. Northampton County has decided the victor in essentially every presidential race since the early 20s. Will they decide that Trump deserves re-election like they did the first time? They were one of the three Obama to Trump counties in 2016, Luzerne and Erie being the other two. Will we see that occur again this year?
Rick, your response.
So I'm going to give you a twofold answer. Number one, I'm going to get right to the point. Trump is going to win Pennsylvania. When you take a look at what I call an undercurrent, something that pollsters can't even control, about the enthusiasm and the excitement about Trump that you can't even poll. He's going to win Luzerne County bigger. He has unions that Lou Barletta has brought in from Philadelphia that's going to offset that vote. You have the Pittsburgh Gazette from Pittsburgh endorsing Trump that never endorsed a Republican in years, plus something that I've seen 2 days ago where the Amish, which people never even talk about, which we're talking about 100,000 votes, will help to bring in PA. But on that, Pennsylvania, everyone's talking about PA and they're going to wait for PA and these late results. I'm going to make a call tonight that we're not even going to, that at the end of the day, Pennsylvania is not even going to play a part in this. The reason why I'm going to predict that Trump is going to win with other states coming in, and you're not even going to have to wait for the results to come into Pennsylvania. He's going to hit 270 before we're going to even wait for Pennsylvania. There are things out there, there are polls out there that we're not seeing, and I think that there is we've never seen in an election something so historic and people so excited for a candidate as you have seen in Trump, and that's something pollsters cannot see.
I want to talk about Lauren, what do you think the key issue of this election is?
I mean, based off my opinion solely, and a lot of what I see is a lot of people really want law and order put back into place. You know, the country has pretty much run amok, and we've lost respect for communities, we've lost respect for one another, and we've lost respect for authority. And when that is out the window, I'm not really sure how the country can take a step forward.
Charlie, what do you think the key issue is?
It depends on the candidate. So for Trump, it's a referendum on his presidency post-COVID. In January, when he was impeached, and then when he delivered his State of the Union address, there was almost a sense of euphoria that he passed the impeachment process. He looked like he was coming back, and the economy was at the best place it's been in over 50 years. And of course, then COVID happened. So will there be a revolt among some senior citizens who will vote for Biden because they're angry over what happened since February? But then you have people who are completely revolted by the leftward turn of the Democratic Party, especially this year. And that does apply to the woke culture that we're seeing play out. But will that result in people, some of those silent Trump voters, even suburbia, pulling out for Trump because they are just disillusioned by the direction of not necessarily Joe Biden, but Joe Biden's party?
All right. Before we bring Ned Doherty in, we're going to go. Mike, I want to get you very quickly. What do you think the key issue is here?
Honestly, Sammy, I feel it's COVID, hands down. I feel that the people who feel that the president handled the COVID in a responsible way are going to be supportive of the president tonight. People who don't feel that way, and we look at almost 2/3 of the population, were afraid to go to the polls or change their voting pattern. They voted either by mail, in advance, which is something they've never done before. That tells me a lot of people, and once again, I'll get back to the senior citizens, were still afraid to go out of the house. If they were blaming this on President Trump, they're not voting for him tonight.
Well, that's interesting you should say that, because my next guest via Zoom is Ned Doherty. And Ned Doherty was on my show a couple of months ago and talked about the conspiracy, that the coronavirus and the China virus was a conspiracy, and people thought he was nuts. And then we have the Archbishop, sending a open letter to the president, and we'll talk about what he had to say. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we'll have Ned Doherty and talking about the conspiracy, because Michael, it's interesting. You had the Russian situation that fell. Then you had the impeachment that fell. Thank God how did this COVID thing happen? We don't know how this COVID thing happened, through China, yes. And what's happening in the country? We'll be back right after these messages.
start talking.
Your Vote 2020 via Zoom. We're trying to get Ned Doherty on the Zoom. We're having a little technical difficulty, but we're going to continue on. Rick, I didn't get your opinion on what you think the key issue is in this election.
Well, Sam, that's a good question, but I think it really varies when it comes to each state. Obviously, I think the top two are the economy as well as the coronavirus. And so, I think it comes down to which state. I think that, in my opinion, and I've heard some polls coming out of today, that the biggest issue was with the economy. So, I mean, the key question is that, do you want to spend the rest of your time in the next months in the basement waiting for a vaccine, which will never cure everything, or get the economy moving and getting people out there and getting things back together? So, and I think that we're actually being too simple with those two points. There's a lot more to it in the sense of what's going on nationally with other countries, with the border and border control, with the Supreme Court, with abortion. So I think we're being too simple with just breaking it down with one or two issues that people are going to vote for these presidential candidates.
I find that interesting because if you watch the number of the shows we did, when we talk about issues, unfortunately, we had this unfortunate virus. But prior to that, Charlie and Lauren and Michael and Rick, we had a successful economy. Everything was doing great. Now, it's like driving a car and you're having a great time and boom, you get an accident. Well, you didn't expect the accident. So how could it be that we are now blaming the economy on something that Trump had nothing to do with? I want to start with you, Lauren, and get your opinion on that.
I think throughout this whole COVID, speaking from our experience as a small business, if you have not reinvented yourself 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times throughout this whole thing, you've missed a boat. Regardless of COVID, you've got to be able to think on your feet and you've got to be able to move in motion with what's brought forward with you. And unfortunately, it has been very uncharted territory, but you've got to stay with it. And that's part of, I think, being a business owner and being involved and hands-on in what you have.
Charlie, your reaction?
Well, take this subject and apply it to the state level. So before COVID-19, the Lehigh Valley, for example, was one of the fastest growing regions economically in the country, which is remarkable. And that trend of growth was occurring elsewhere throughout Pennsylvania, including the Hazleton area. And then, of course, this crisis occurred. And the one thing I will be looking for tonight is, will there be a referendum in addition to Trump on COVID? Will there be a referendum on Governor Tom Wolf? Because his response to the crisis often resulted in inconsistent, punitive, contradictory policies that proved devastating for small businesses and for restaurant owners and bar owners who had to navigate surprising policies, abrupt changes, really chaos at the local level. And it has proven devastating for so many regions that are historically either Republican or trending Republican. So some of those more working class regions of the state were profoundly affected by these policies. And I would be interested to see how voters are responding to Tom Wolf, not just Donald Trump. And unfortunately, he's the president. So many people who are not necessarily tuned into the news associate COVID with Trump. And that does work against him. But people who are working at the local level, these main streets of downtowns who had to endure those shutdown policies enforced by the governor, how are they going to vote tonight? And I can't imagine that they're satisfied with some of the governor's policies.
All right.
If I could add real quick to Charlie's point,
Wait, Rick, hold on.
the national
Rick,
level.
hold on a second, Rick. We'll get back to you in a second. Fox News projects Donald Trump will win the states of Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Missouri, and Oklahoma. Is that something, Mike, that was expected?
Absolutely. You could put those in a red column going in.
Okay.
And also, if they haven't already, add Kentucky and West Virginia.
Okay. All right, Rick, go ahead. You could. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just want to go back to Charlie's point. I mean, he made great points, and I agree with him 100%. But what he said about Pennsylvania and Governor Wolf is the same thing that we need to be looking at the swing states, which is one is Michigan, which again is a Democratic governor who has shut down that state. And there is no question that the people want to break out. They want to move on with their lives. And the question is that are they believing it's Donald Trump's fault, or are they following the governor who is shutting down their government? The state of Michigan, just like they're doing with PA. And I think that there are a lot more people in Michigan, forgetting about these polls, who are going to support Donald Trump, realizing the fact that it's not his fault for this virus, and the fact that people need to understand now that they're starting to learn about government, it's not the national government, it comes down to the state government, that these governors have a lot of power who have shut down our states. And you will see throughout our country which states have been shut down, like New York and Pennsylvania and New Jersey and Michigan. And we will see if there's a pattern here between Pennsylvania and Michigan, which is another swing state.
Michael, your reaction.
Yeah, my reaction, Sam, okay, I'd be the last person in the world to ever blame President Trump for the COVID virus. However, once again, I think what's on trial tonight and in this election is President Trump's personality and his reaction to the virus. Dr. Anthony Fauci, who has a favorability rating nationally in the 80 percentiles, people were just saying, please listen to the science, please listen to your doctors, don't get mad at them. Maybe we could prevent this as a nation, but listen to your experts. When I get sick, Sam, I go to the doctor. I don't try and cure it by myself. And I think if President Trump would have listened to his experts more from the beginning, this could have been a far less serious effect. Do I think the economy was in great shape before COVID? Yes. Do I think it was his fault? No, but it was a tragedy. It was like 9/11 under George Bush. No one could have predicted that, and we saw what happened to our economy after that. But the fact of the matter is, here there was science that could have helped us and can still be helping us to get out of this much quicker.
Michael, I'm interviewing John Fletcher and Dr. Valent this week, bringing us up to date what's going on. Dr. Valent said something extremely important. I think the most fascinating statement I heard is when he said to me on the coronavirus, he says, Sammy, we don't have a book on this. That means when chapter 1 is written, you have to follow what chapter 1 is. Now, chapter 4 could be entirely different than chapter 1. But we're adding chapters to this book. Now, Fauci said before, the mask mean nothing. All of a sudden, as the political climate starts to change, we now have restrictions. Now, I don't know, but my question to Dr. Valent will be, let's continue on what that book you talked about. And let me tell you, Lehigh Valley Hospital has been doing a fabulous job. And I think that we're going to continue on with those chapters. We're going to go to break, Sammy. He's in the control room. I understand Ned Doherty is on standby, so we'll get back and talk about this, what the Archbishop wrote, the Gettysburg Times. We'll be back after this break, if he's ready.
Your vote on SSPTV News.
Welcome back to Your Vote 2020, my friends. We have the panel on tonight. Mike Picosmo, Rick Morelli, Charles McAwee, and joining us for the first time, Lauren Sacco. Let me go to you, Rick. Rick was talking about some numbers that he received. Rick, you want to share that with our audience?
Yes. So as Mike mentioned earlier in the show, that a lot of times we talk about trends and what we see. And again, getting away from the presidential race, but going to two local races. One is a congressional race as well as a state represent. And we have the District 1 in Butler, where we have, for example, Tara Toohill winning against Todd Eachus, 314 to 136. That's a closer to 3-1. Margin there, and she's doing very well. And again, that's a strong trend, especially in the Valley. On the other side, we have Jim Bognett, again, no surprise, winning against Matt Cartwright, 245 to 168. Not as much of a big lead as Tara. And again, there's no question that Jim needs to win big down here in southern Luzerne County, as compared to Lackawanna County, where Matt Cartwright is from. So again, too early to call, obviously, but those are similar. Those are quick results. And again, two candidates that are local, which really have two different numbers. So just want to share that, and I'll pass that off to Mike to get his opinion.
Michael, before you do that, you're correct. President Trump is projected to win Indiana, Kentucky, Oklahoma, and Tennessee, and West Virginia, and they're projecting Biden to win Massachusetts, New Jersey, Vermont, and Delaware. I guess in the District of Columbia. I guess that's no surprise to you, correct?
No upset so far. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Respond to what Rick was saying.
Yeah, just a trend. Like Rick said, both were expected to win. I don't think that trend looks good for Jimmy Bognett, only because if Tara's winning down here by 3-1 margin, Jimmy's a first district guy. He has to run at least as well as Tara, I would think, in these districts. So his margin there, it sounds like it's 1.5 to 1. So he beat Matt Cartwright, and that's impressive. I mean, a 4-term incumbent, but he's not gaining. It looks like people are splitting their ticket a little bit in the Republican side.
Charlie, your reaction to that?
Yeah, I mean, Mike and Rick are both correct. And really, I mean, Jim Bognett's challenge is just the other half of the district, of course. I mean, there are plenty of Democrats who live in the district where he hopes to become a member of Congress and to represent the Hazleton area. So it's a matter of winning, in some sense, winning over those registered Democrats who don't vote Democrat in the greater Hazleton area. They're disillusioned with their party. They feel culturally betrayed to that party, and therefore they vote for Trump in 2016, and they supported Lou Barletta in 2018, and then they'll vote for Jim Bognett this time. And of course, that is offset by the Scrantonian Democrats who are loyal to the Democratic Party beyond anything else. It's Democratic Party or bust. So there is that cultural friction within the party in the same congressional district.
Lauren, do you feel that the Democrat Party has changed?
Yes and no. I mean, it's no secret that I'm pretty strong in my belief as a Republican, but I think there's a lot up for question right now. There's a lot of things that always have been, and there's a lot that's pretty much in that direction, spiraling out of control with a lot of unknowns. So I think a lot of the Democratic question is up in the air. And Charles makes a very good point with his points of the cultural imbalance here, and I think you're going to see that play pretty strong with Jim, unfortunately.
Michael, have you said, we know each other for so many zillion years, and recall the very first time we had the election returns, etc. I always kid you about the Democrats, etc. Remember, I was born and raised a Democrat, that I think the Democrat Party at the time was the party for the people. Anyway, people have their viewpoints, and that's fine. Do you think the Democrat Party has changed, Michael?
Absolutely, Sammy. The Democratic Party went from, I think, center moderate to moderate left. There's still a lot of moderate Democrats, and I think, to be fair to Joe Biden, he's been a moderate almost his entire life. I think one of the things that most people are worried about Joe Biden in this election is who he chose for his running mate and any emerging group of liberals, real far left-wing liberals, and they're afraid that they're going to control Joe Biden. Joe Biden, I think most people will agree, is a pretty decent guy, has always been able to work across both sides of the aisle, but that was the old Democratic Party. I think those days in Washington, Sammy, are pretty much done on both sides. I really do.
When you're looking at the party and you're looking at Joe Biden and his viewpoints, basically moderates and conservatives don't agree with his philosophy, especially on abortion, and he always brags about being an Irish Catholic. How do you react to that, Michael?
Well, and I've stated many times in this program, Sammy, I'm pro-life. And I'm pro-life from inception to death. And Joe Biden's position on abortion, obviously it's going to help him tremendously in the suburbs tonight, but with the Catholic votes, there are a lot of Catholics, I'm sure, who won't vote for him because of that. There are a lot of one-issue candidates, and abortion being the most socially divisive issue in our entire lives. There's no question about it. And anytime you talk about abortion, people either for or against. Like I said, certain parts, you look at the suburbs of Philly tonight, he's going to run real strong with the housewives from there because of his stand on abortion. You look in a Catholic county like Luzerne County, and that's where Joe Biden's going to lose a lot of votes tonight.
Charlie, your reaction to that?
Yes, I mean, when you look at Joe Biden, he is the last hurrah of these Irish Catholic Democrats who are a throwback to what they believe is the Kennedy era. So there's this nostalgic nature to his candidacy, and really almost like a platitudinous nature to how Biden talks. So, and that got him in trouble in 1987. He would sometimes speak in the way that Kennedy would speak, and even lift lines from some of the speeches that John and Bobby Kennedy would give in the 60s. So Biden is a cultural inheritor of that nostalgic view of the Democratic Party, but anybody who lives in Southern Luzerne, for the most part, no longer buys into that. That is of the past. Those Kennedy Democrats are gone. Those 12,000 people who packed downtown Hazleton to watch Kennedy talk in October 1960, just days before the election, well, their descendants and even some of those people who were there that day to watch Kennedy, today they're Trump Republicans. They no longer feel at home in the Democratic Party.
Rick, you're shaking your head. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I agree with both these gentlemen, and I've been following this very closely, and as well as inside. The Democratic Party, and I know it well here in Luzerne County, it's changed. I mean, I know a lot of Democrats and some, and actually, I'm going to say something that's earth-taking here. One of Mike Picosmo family members were at Trump's rally yesterday. All right. So that just tells you that in the old days where you're controlling votes doesn't even work anymore. So I'm not going to mention names, but that's inside scoop. But outside of that, the fact is that there are a lot of Democrats, the old school, they moved. It was about the unions, workers, they moved away. And this election is very important because it's gone to the radical left, not just a little left, the radical left of almost to the point of socialism that we've been talking about. And it's scary of what America was made about. And it's still a young country of 270 some years. Fact of where we could be going, of everything free and opening borders and things of that nature. And that goes back to your question, Sam, before, is it the virus or the economy? There's so many issues that we got to look at here. And it's scary. And many people have said, if we don't win this election now, we could really go far left, and it could be a major change here for the United States if things don't go the way I would hope.
I want to read part of this letter
Sammy, let me interrupt you just 1 second.
Go ahead.
I heard Rick say that he took his son up to the Trump rally. And let me just tell you, Charlie alluded to the Altamont rally with John Kennedy. I remember sitting on my father's shoulders that day at that rally. I was 5 years old. And Rick, I'm telling you, this is something your son will never forget the rest of his life, the fact that he was there yesterday. You can't imagine what a favor you did to your son.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Frank.
That's good. Well, listen, I wanted to read an excerpt when Ned would call in, and this is an open letter to the President of the United States. by Archbishop Vigano, Vigano. Part of it, and I'm going to go to you, Lauren, and to get a response from you. He says, the bishop says that President, daily we sensed the attacks multiplying on those who want to destroy the very basis of society, the natural family, respect for human life, love of country, freedom of education and business. We see heads of nations and religious leaders pondering to this suicide of Western culture and its Christian soul, while the fundamental rights of citizens and believers are denied in the name of a health emergency that is revealing itself more and more fully as an instrumental to the establishment of an inhuman, faceless tyranny. This letter is very powerful, and some of the things he talks about, the conspiracy. Lauren, do you think the morals of this country are going down the tubes?
I do. I mean, on a personal level, I think family is the do-all, die-all. And I think a lot of what America is missing here is dinner around the table, a mother and father checking up on their children, and respect for authority and respect for just law and order. This race, deeply, I strongly feel that it's a win between, it's either going to be good or evil. You know, when I look at Joe Biden, I don't think that at the end of the day, it's going to be Joe Biden in there. You know, you're really voting for Camila and her beliefs. And this country is on a tipping point. And if you want law and order and your children to be raised in a safe environment and to have better, then I think the choice is pretty clear.
Mike, how do you react to what I just read with the Archbishop? That's not Sam Lassant, it's the Archbishop, you said.
Yeah, no, Sam, and that was very strong, and I agree very strongly with something Lauren just said about the family dinners. One of my favorite shows is Blue Bloods, and too bad you don't have it on your station, but to me, the highlight of that show every week is when they sit for that Sunday dinner. And it just takes you back to a different time when everyone would sit and talk and be able to discuss things in a normal manner. And I think those days, for whatever reason, Sammy, in our country are gone with the majority of families. And that's what we have to bring back. Now, how do we bring it back? I could tell you, and Rick alluded to a family member of mine, but I look forward to a time when I could sit down at a family table where we're not disagreeing on politics anymore.
Yeah.
We could sit and talk about our country and the good things that are happening in America.
Let me continue on with this particular letter, Rick, I want you to respond to this. He says, beyond the enormous economic interests that motivate the promoters of the Great Reset, the imposition of the vaccination will be accompanied by the requirement of a health passport and a digital ID with the consequent contact tracing of the population of the entire world. Those who do not accept these measures will be confined in detention camps or placed under house arrest, and all their assets will be confiscated. Further lockdowns are planned, which will officially justified by a supposed second and third wave of the pandemic. You are well aware of the means that have been deployed to sow panic and legitimize draconian limitations on individual liberties, artfully provoking a worldwide economic crisis. Rick?
Well, it sounds like a communism letter to me, to be honest with you. I mean, that's what communism is. I mean, that's what would take place in a world like that. I mean, you know, it's invoking fear. And I've always said that, you know, I want freedom over fear. And I think a lot of Americans want that. Even the people who are hypocritical, who say they don't want to be, that Trump didn't handle this coronavirus, they're out and about doing what they can. You cannot survive in this country, in an open country, by sitting in your basement doing nothing. Let me tell you something. In all fairness, I've had corona actually twice. I have family members who have it. I've known a lot of people, and it's out there. It is not going to go away even with a vaccine. We need to open up our country. These experts, Fauci, et cetera, don't know the economics of our country, and we need to move on and we need to adjust with it, which is basically what Donald Trump is saying. And there are people out there, radical lefts, who want to scare us and think that we're going to die with this whole thing. But the fact is, we have to live with it. And the fact is, this is a political prop. And I'm going to tell you, in a couple days from now, after this election is over, we're not going to be hearing that much about it.
Well, this is a letter that what the bishop is saying exactly what you're saying, that it's all a big setup, to scare everybody, to put them in this situation. Now, it's happening in other countries. Charlie, your reaction?
I think we're confronting two pandemics. I don't think we should question the reality of the COVID-19 pandemic. I know too many people who have loved ones in hospitals, etc., to dismiss the realities of COVID-19. Unfortunately, it's luck of the draw, and we're confronting what is a pandemic, but that doesn't mean that we have to shut everything down as Governor Wolf did throughout the year. You do have to open up because that is devastating, and we're destroying livelihoods over the extreme shutdowns that have been in place. But we have to have a sensible reaction to COVID-19 as well. The other pandemic we're confronting is in the technological realm. So you see the insidious nature of social media. It almost seems like we're living in this sociopathic surveillance state in the sense of people's livelihoods being destroyed on the internet and this cultural tumult being driven in the online realm. And that precedes COVID-19. It has been a phenomenon really fueled since the Trump presidency, and there appears to be no end in sight. So it's really COVID-19, but in addition to that, the big tech-fueled pandemic in the sense of just all this unrest that is a direct result of social media.
Before we go to break, I want to thank the following sponsors of the show tonight. Some of them you see on the screen is Blaze Alexander, Boyers, Favello Law Firm, Luzerne Tire, the Slusser Law Firm, All Care Home Care, Brass Buckle, the Arts Barn, Vito's Lawn Care, Attorney Christine Holman, BCI, and Vito's Coal Fire Pizza and Restaurant. I want to thank them very much for supporting. And remember also, all information on the election you can get at the Hazleton Standard-Speaker tomorrow. Full information as usual the paper presents to us. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We do have, we trying to get Ned Doherty back. We had a problem with the Zoom on his end, and former Congressman Lou Barletta will be joining us within the hour. So let's take a break. Sending it back to you, Sammy, at the studio.
Your vote on SSPTV News.
Welcome back, my friends, to Your Vote 2020 live via Zoom, and also Your Vote 2020 also on our YouTube channel, Samson Productions. Joined with the panel, good panel this year. Charles McAwee, Rick Morelli, Mike Picosmo, and substituting for Tara Toole tonight is Lauren Sacco, who is doing an outstanding job as a city councilman in the city of Hazleton. She wears 15 hats, Frankie's Pizza, which I love, the lawn care, and then of course the pen from Sacco. He breaks my back, but he does a great job with. Lauren, we're talking about many things, and I know you reinvented yourself for your business, which is really admirable. It's sad what we're going through. When we talk about these different things, what do you hear on the streets from your constituents about what's going on today with the politics and the Trump and the Biden and the radicals and the conservatives and that kind of stuff? Because you're out talking to people all the time.
I mean, I'll be very honest. A lot of the people that I come across, they are a very quiet, silent Trump supporter. They drown out the noise, they drown out the problem, they stick to their values, they go with their gut, and they're pretty much taking their roots, they're going to the polls, and they're pretty much standing their ground. And I have not really heard anything other than Trump all the way, to be very honest.
I'm going to get back to you with this question, but I'm jumping to Charlie. Charlie, what happens if Joe Biden wins the presidency?
It remains to be seen. The question is, Joe Biden has presented himself, especially to suburban voters, as a return to normalcy. That he's trying to win over two groups, suburbanites and then also seniors. So to suburbanites, including people who have trended Republican for years, maybe even voted for Mitt Romney in 2012, perhaps sat out 2016, and then maybe voting for Biden today, will Biden look to them as his protectorate. And in addition to that, you have seniors, of course, who are perhaps concerned over COVID-19, associate COVID with Trump, and then will therefore hurt some of his margins among those voters. So in terms of Biden presidency, will he deliver that nostalgia, or will it be the forces behind Biden that we really see? Some of those progressive forces, for example, that we see in the city of Philadelphia with District Attorney Larry Krasner, or the Pittsburgh mayor, or some of these other mayors like Bill de Blasio in New York, that this leftward turn of the Democratic Party is the reality of the Democratic Party, and Joe Biden to those two groups perhaps as a throwback, but in reality, the forces behind them are what will really be what the administration turns out to be.
Michael, what do you think? What would happen if Joe Biden becomes a president?
Sammy, I think Joe Biden is a well-seasoned politician. Obviously, he's been down there long enough. And I think the most important decisions he'll have to make are the people he's going to surround himself with. He better surround himself with a lot of good people, Sammy, because we've been talking all night. There are two distinctly different wings in the Democratic Party. And I think, if you bring the wrong people in, and if he listens to the wrong people, he's going to be in trouble in a hurry. I just saw, and it was well publicized in the last 3 days, I guess, the number four person in the country running for office in terms of raising funds was AOC in the country. So that's what kind of following she has in terms of people sending her money. I could tell you, her and Joe Biden aren't the same Democrats. But is she going to get a seat at the table? I certainly would hope not. I would hope you go back to a lot of people in the Clinton years, which is going back some years. He's going to go back to the Obama people, I'm sure. But he better surround himself with some good people and people who he could trust and really know the landscape of Washington and the world.
Rick, what do you think would happen if we had a Joe Biden presidency?
Again, I'm really not here to bash Joe Biden. I think he's done his public service, and I give him credit for that. He's beyond his time in public service, and he's just kind of a figurehead for the left wing, the radical wing. And I think, again, we will see a lot of people who will be controlling him. And I think if they get their way, especially with a Congress and Senate in their back corner, we will see an America that we've never seen before, which will be scary. I mean, again, open borders, higher taxes, again, a lot of free things. Well, people think they're free, but they're going to be paying on the back end of it. And we will see a different country that we've never seen before. And again, as many people have said, there may be a chance that you may never see another Republican president again as well when they have their way.
Okay, I understand Lou Barletta is on a Zoom. Janine, we have Lou on. I'm going to go to break. We come back. We'll be talking to former Congressman Lou Barletta to get some reaction of where he's at and what he thinks where we're going. We'll be back after these messages.
Your vote on SSPTV News.
Welcome back to Your Vote 2020, folks. Remember, you can watch us on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is Samson Productions. And don't forget full details of the election on the Hazleton Standard Speaker. Joining us now, former Congressman Lou Barletta, no stranger, of course, to Sam Losancho, or our election returns. Lou, I guess you had, so far this year, you had some interesting places you've been with the Trump family. You're very close to the Trump family. And you were at some of the rallies, all the rallies that were up here. What do you think is going to happen tonight?
Well, Sam, I would be surprised if Donald Trump doesn't win Pennsylvania. I think what we're going to see is a red wave in Western PA. I think that Joe Biden's comments about fracking was a death sentence for him, especially in Western PA, where the the cracker plant is the lifeline to so many families out there. I also think you're going to see the usual numbers, from maybe even better numbers in northeastern Pennsylvania than he did in 2016. If these rallies and the enthusiasm that we see are any indication, I think he's going to do better there. And I think the surprise will be, Sam, something that I've talked to you about over the past year. I don't believe he's going to do as poorly in Philadelphia as some of the experts are predicting.
Now, Lou, I know that before this China virus hit, the economy was doing extremely well. Unions had their people working. I mean, and there was pride with Hispanics and African Americans that were able to get jobs. Okay, do you think the unions are looking at that?
Well, certain unions, Sam, the building trades would be the ones that I would point out, and I've been working with them for over the past year and a half, actually. Had them down in Washington many times, meeting with Peter Navarro. Had Peter Navarro in Philadelphia, and Sam, the rank and file by far are all supporting Donald Trump because their families are doing well. They were working, the president's America First policies. They like that, especially here in Pennsylvania. His energy policies are very important to the building trades in Philadelphia. The investment in the Navy Yard in Philadelphia, there are 5 new ships being built there, critical to them. So I could tell you the rank and file is all with Trump. The internationals, however, are endorsing Biden, and there's real tug of war between them because that's not the feeling of the rank and file, and they're the ones who are going out to vote. If you drive around Philadelphia, Sam, you're going to see at least 11 billboards that say Union Families for Trump. You're also going to see, what you won't see is many Biden banners hanging from the union halls in Philadelphia. So I think you're going to see a surprise there. Also, I've been talking to a lot of some of the black ministers in Philadelphia, and what they tell me is that black males in Philadelphia are turning over to Trump. Many of them have become entrepreneurs, opened little barber shops, little stores. And with the economy doing so well, they're doing well. So I think you're seeing a switch. Sam, honestly, and I think we're seeing this, since nothing's changed with Donald Trump since 2016. He's the same guy he was then, and he won Pennsylvania. But the Democrat Party is not the same party of 2016. They have shifted so far left that they left a lot of these folks behind, and I think they are becoming more and more comfortable saying, hey, listen, I can vote for a Republican.
All right, I'd like to ask the panel, starting with Charlie, each one of you, that if you have a question or a comment you want to make to Lou. So, Charlie, let's talk to you. If you, what would you like to ask or talk to this congressman about?
Yeah, so Lou, you mapped out essentially Pennsylvania's political realignment. People who were loyal to the Democratic Party, they're disaffected with it, and now they're voting Republican, including for Trump. Bloomberg came out with a study yesterday that I found fascinating. It listed the 100 employers with the most employees who gave to each campaign. And the map, as it showed, had big tech companies like Google, Amazon. In addition to that, the federal government and universities, employees of those institutions heavily backing Biden in terms of donations. And then the top 3 entities in this study that came out for Trump, the U.S. military, the Marines, and the New York Police Department. What does that tell us about Joe Biden as a candidate and Donald Trump as a candidate?
Yeah, well, I think what's happening, this is a new Republican Party. It's the Trump Party. It's not the Republican Party that many people knew, and it's because of Donald Trump. He's literally gone after those that have been left behind by the party, and it's almost a flip. It's almost like a reversal of the two parties, where you're now seeing minorities, Latinos and African Americans now coming over because of Donald Trump. And if the Republican Party embraces that, I think you're going to see that continue to grow because I'm not convinced that the Democrat Party can get control of it, at least in the very near future. I think the AOCs, the Bernie Sanders, I think they have a grip on that party right now, and I never thought I would see it. I argued that Nancy Pelosi would never lose control of that party, but I'll tell you, they have really shifted left. I mean, think of Democrats. I mean, some of their abortion policies right now. That's not the values of the Democrats I knew. I was a Democrat. My family we were all Democrats. Those are not the same values anymore. It is a radical shift to the left, and if they can't get control of it, I think the Republican Party has a lot to gain.
Lauren, you have a question for the congressman or a comment?
Yes, I'm interested to see what your take is on when you're going across the state, along with Eric Trump doing things for Donald. What are you hearing from, women like a working mother who's at home raising children, working a full-time job? Where is her stance on all of this with Donald Trump?
Well, again, I think the media likes to say that, women are turned off by Donald Trump, by the way he talks and the way he acts, but that's not what I see. I see something totally different. And also, I think another factor that's playing into it, these riots, Lauren, they're affecting the women in the suburbs right now. What they're seeing, with the riots in the city and the defunding of the police. Listen, they want their kids to go to safe schools. Mm-hmm. So I believe that the policies that they're taking up, slowly but surely, more people are going to begin to come over if the Democrats don't try to get more to the center again. And I don't know if they can right now because of some of the folks I mentioned. So I think it'll take a while because, Republicans lost a suburban woman, in the past few elections. But I think you're going to slowly see that coming back. The biggest gains I'm seeing is with the African American, with the Black community. The president's platinum plan is so important to them when he talks about that First Step Act, criminal justice reform, the money that he put into Black colleges, historical Black colleges. They are paying attention to that, and they actually tell me that he has done more for them than Barack Obama did for them in 8 years, and that's a big statement.
Michael, you have a comment or question for the congressman?
Congressman, I do. How are you this evening?
I'm good, Mike.
Lou, two things. Number one, we go back 4 years ago. I think everyone in the panel will agree Hillary Clinton was not a good candidate. She never once stepped foot in Luzerne County. I begged her campaign to come here. And the first rule of politics is, you have to ask for a vote. She just totally blew us off. But one other big factor, I think, in Donald Trump's victory in Luzerne County then was he had a very popular congressman running for re-election at the time by the name of Lou Barletta. And Tom Marino was also very active. You're not there this time. As Rick said, you probably got the largest ovation I saw at the Trump rally yesterday up there. The people in northeastern Pennsylvania, you have a real connection with, but Donald Trump doesn't have that going for him in this campaign in Luzerne County, Lackawanna County. How do you think it'll affect him?
Well, I don't think it will, Mike, because I think what he has done from 2016 to now, he's kept his promises to the people here in Luzerne County. He did all the things that they voted for him to do. So I don't think he needs myself right now or Tom. At the time when he was first running, I think it was a big help to him. But I think he's on his own right now, and I think that love and affection for him has grown. And I'll give you an example: the Old Forge rally that he had at Mariotti Lumber. I was like blown away by that crowd, and that crowd was like a mile long, 2 or 3 deep. Rick, you might have been there. I don't know if you were there or not, but they waited there for hours upon hours upon hours just to wave to his car as it went by. They weren't going to hear him. They weren't going to see him. They just wanted to wave to him. That kind of affection is like nothing I've seen. So I don't think he needs Tom or I think he's going to do well on his own.
Rick, your question or comment to the congressman.
Yeah, so let me first add on to what Lou just mentioned about as I said earlier, the undercurrent about Trump. It's something that we've never seen before. We will never see again. And Lou knows this. I was at a rally a couple days ago, and it's amazing. And Lou has seen this. And I don't think this is anything that the pollsters can bring in. Again, Lou was at the rally yesterday with Trump. Kudos to Lou, just knowing him, what he's been about with Donald Trump, and he got a huge ovation. And again, I'm going to first say it, Lou for governor. So I'm going to say it right now. I really hope you do run because the state needs this. But lastly, Lou, again, earlier on I mentioned in the show about Pennsylvania being a key state. And I'm going to put you on the table here right now. We all know it comes down to Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. And you alluded to the fact that there's some key unions in Philadelphia that are changing their colors and moving on. And I know for a fact that you are a part of that. And I'd like you to elaborate more specifically on those unions, what's going to happen in Philadelphia, and how that could change Pennsylvania as well as this whole election on the national level.
Yeah, besides the jobs, which obviously, that's the most obvious. The economy was going so well. The big thing is energy, and the Boilermakers, for example, and the steam fitters. There are two right off the top where their livelihoods are literally affected by the energy policies. If Biden, he talks about no more fracking, and I don't think there's any way. I don't think there was any gray area in what he said. He said 0 carbon emissions by 2025. That is the end. 0 carbon emissions means just that. They're done. So their livelihoods are affected, and they've reached out and tried to get clarity on those policies. And they told me point blank that if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were elected, those families, they would lose their jobs, their families would be done, the economy would be crushed. And the fact that Biden picked Kamala Harris was really another insult to the people here in Pennsylvania, especially in the energy field, because we know how she feels. And I don't know if anybody thinks that Joe Biden could complete a term, which means that Kamala Harris will be the president. Those energy policies, listen, energy is the best thing we have in Pennsylvania. I mean, we have such an opportunity throughout the entire Commonwealth because of it. We can't have a president or vice president that really wants to kill what's our opportunity here in Pennsylvania. So those unions now are getting more and more comfortable with coming out. The Boilermakers, I worked with them, and they endorsed Donald Trump out in Pittsburgh, Local 154. That's the largest Boilermakers union in the country. That also led to the Boilermakers, I think in West Virginia and another New Jersey, might have been, also to endorse the president. So they're actually coming out and not only supporting him, but now they're endorsing him. That's going to turn into votes. So I don't think those losses in those areas, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, are going to be as great.
Lou, could you hang in there? I'm going to go to break. I want to come back. Okay. The questions I have is, so then why would there was over $1 billion invested in Joe Biden's campaign. And I asked Lou a question on my show. I said, Lou, what would happen to our neighbors in our area, in our town, if Joe Biden became president? And I found his answer very fascinating, and I'm going to ask him that question when we come back. And also, an interesting thing, the media and the pollsters. You ever get a call from a pollster and what they say on the phone, and then they register it as you didn't really even say it? We'll be back after these messages. So Sam, I'm sending it to you in the studio.
Your vote on SSPTV News.
Welcome back to Your Vote 2020. Also on YouTube on the SSPTV channel, Samson Production channel. Don't forget, tomorrow read all of the election returns and the Hazelton Standard Speaker. I want to thank the sponsors of our show tonight: Blaze Alexander, Boyers, Ravello Law Firm, Loser and Tire, the Slusser Law Firm, All Care Home Care, Brass Buckle, the Arts Barn, Vito's Lawn Care, Attorney Christine Holman, BCI, and Vito's Coal Fire Pizza and Restaurant. All right, so I asked Lou a question. I'll ask you again. When you were on the show, Lou, I said, what would it mean to our town and our neighbors that live in the greater Hazelton area if Joe Biden becomes our president? Lou, what was your answer?
Well, Sam, they're going to be affected because they're going to see their home heating costs, electricity go up over $1,200 per household, at least $1,200. Price of gas double. So when people think that, well, we don't have any direct energy jobs right here, they don't realize how it's going to affect them, and it's going to affect them in a huge way. I mean, not only the direct jobs, but when people make good money, they spend it. They go out, they buy things, they build, they fix their homes, they go out to dinner, they eat, and that goes out throughout the Commonwealth. But the thing that will affect them the most, Sam, will be the cost of electricity. And I mean, think of this: no fossil fuels. That's so ridiculous to even say that. I say this jokingly, but I'm serious. I wouldn't say that drunk to my friends. I mean, we can't have a country with no fossil fuels. How are you going to fuel the military? I mean, there's petroleum in everything that we make. So it's a ridiculous policy, but it seems like they're pretty serious, and it will kill the fossil fuel energy jobs here in Pennsylvania, and we're going to see electricity. Sam, I may have mentioned it to you, but I don't know if I did or not, but Mexico and Germany already tried this, and they're at the back end of it where they said, no more. We're done. We're done subsidizing wind and solar. The cost of our electricity has gone through the roof, and the economy has been crushed by it, and they said they simply can't afford it anymore. They're getting out. Why would we now do what other countries have tried and saw that it doesn't work?
The media, over 93% negative on Trump. Made all the talk show hosts evening talk show hosts, negative on Trump from day one. Why do you think that is?
Well, they hated him. He was a threat to them. They weren't the only ones. A lot of Republicans in Washington hated him too. He was different. He wasn't a politician. He was an outsider coming in, and they wanted everybody to be conformed to the culture there. And he was different. He didn't talk like everyone else. He didn't act like everyone else. And he said things that were brash and sometimes offensive. And then he called out the media for what they were, and that just snowballed to the point where, I mean, you can't. 90% of the news is negative about him, and it's just gotten worse. I mean, literally, to the point where, even if they're keeping information from the public, like what we're seeing now with the Hunter Biden stuff, they don't care. They just want Donald Trump gone.
Rick, your response to that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. And it is really sad as to where our country has gone to, where the media has not been blatant against Trump. But again, when you have a Hunter Biden story and you just do not even talk about it, when the New York Post puts it out there and Twitter doesn't even and blocks it, it's scary. I mean, it is really scary for our country. I mean, our First Amendment is freedom of speech. And again, if you continue to go to the left wing and do these type of things, it's where's our country, where are the values going? It is scary I'm not scared personally. I'm scared for the future of our kids, my son. And things like this scares the hell out of me, to be quite frank, when, again, the press, and what we've shown is that they're just blatant. The fact that you won't even talk about it, when you don't even talk about transparency, I've been in local government and I've seen the press editorials talk about transparency and taxes. Now all of a sudden they're silent, they're avoiding it. That is scary. And I think they need to be called out on it. And I think they need to be called out, and not only from a standpoint of the newspapers, but the individual editors and those individuals who are not putting it out. I think that's where we need to go with these people, because it's gone to the point where that is just not right. It's freedom of speech, and it's our First Amendment.
Lauren, you're in the public office now. How do you respond to that?
I mean, I think a lot of it is your tribe is your vibe. You know, you surround yourself with people that have views and opinions like you. And I'll be honest, I mean, my husband and I, we tune out the noise. Most of what's on, if it's not an SSPTV Sacco Chiropractic show, I mean, we tune out the noise. I don't really put myself in the middle of all that. I mean, you got to rise above and be able to rationalize the situation and take what it is at face value and be able to make a good decision and follow your gut.
Lou, I can imagine what you must feel like, because again, if people go back when Trump was nominated and you were there standing with Christie, governor, I can't think of his name offhand, when Trump announced and he won, and Eric and the entire family are very close to you, including Donald himself, the president himself. When you see the reports and listen to the CNN, MSNBC, and et cetera, and you know that they're not really presenting what they should be presenting as far as both sides. As a congressman, how did that affect you when you were in Washington?
Well, it affects you a lot, because the American people need to know the information. They need to know what their president's doing, and to keep that information from them. It's just not. It's not democracy. It's not what should happen. So I don't honestly. This president loves this country so much. I mean, he doesn't care. He doesn't care a Democrat, if you're a Democrat or Republican. As long as he can help the people, he's going to do it. And to keep the things that he did away from the public, that it took me to come back home and tell people what he did, because you're never going to see it in the local newspaper or on TV. And that's not right. This president has accomplished so much. He's not joking. He's accomplished more in 47 months than Joe Biden did in 47 years. And I mean, I could begin to give you the list of things. Those things could take a president 8 years to do, and he just keeps on going on to the next and the next and the next. I mean, who would think we'd start to see peace in the Middle East? I mean, that almost seemed like that was impossible. ISIS, when I was on Homeland Security, ISIS was going to be a caliphate. We were literally getting classified briefings on a fear that we weren't going to be able to stop this from our own country, that they were recruiting our own children, our own people here in this country. They're gone. And it's like nothing. We don't even talk about it. It was like, just check that box, gone, done. You just go down the list of what he's been able to accomplish, because he's a businessman. So I don't care how he talks. He's helping the American people. He's helping our country. He's bringing jobs back here. And he's standing up for all the people who didn't have a voice. And that's what the media doesn't like, because this is dangerous. They don't know how to poll them, because they don't know how to find them. They don't know where they are. And these people that support Trump, I got 2 of my 4 daughters lie to pollsters. And I asked them, why do you lie? Why tell them the truth? They say they just like messing with them. You know, they don't know how to handle this. And that's scary to them, because the forgotten people now have a voice. And what an unlikely vessel. You know, a billionaire from New York. Who would ever believe that he would be the voice of so many people? And Sam, it's not only these Republicans, it's these Democrats who didn't have a home anymore, you know, who didn't agree. I mean, Mike talked about John Yudicek. That guy's a hero. John Yudicek is a hero for having the courage to do what he did. And he did it not for himself. And he did it because the people back here, he didn't feel that they were getting what they should from that party. And I think you're going to see more and more. And John's brave step, I think, is going to pave the way for others to say, listen, I don't have to do what my grandfather did. And that's sort of the way here in the Northeast, right? We were all Democrats because we were all Democrats. Our grandparents were Democrats, and that's the way we were. And they're losing that. And they're also losing the blacks, because they are saying, hey, we can think for ourselves. You can't just put us in a box and think you have us. And that's what Trump is doing. He's building a new party.
Yeah.
Well, it's. I hope that after this election, I know there's people angry with other people, and they get upset. Um, and sometimes facts are ugly things. And I don't think anyone's perfect. I just hope that people would just accept what happens in life. You're living it all the time, Lou. And when you become governor, uh, remember, take that San Lasan cup, and I want it in your office, okay? So I don't do what you did when you were mayor. Every time I came in, you would pull the cup out and put it behind you. It's not going to happen this time. Well, thanks for coming out.
I never paid the invoice for the cup either.
Yeah, I know. Is Tara there with you?
Not yet.
Okay. We're going to go to break.
She found service somewhere else. So.
Okay. Thanks for staying on. I appreciate it. Okay.
All right. Good seeing everybody.
We're going to take a break. We come back. We have much more for you, my friends. And once again, I want to thank the sponsors of our show. These are people that believe in local television. They believe in what we're doing. Charlie, you made something before I go to break. You said something about our programming and local programming. What was your remark about? How important it is, or what did you say?
Well, I'll say it right now, the importance of hyper-local news, and what is a better representation of that than SSPTV. So really, when you watch a channel like SSPTV, you're getting a gauge of how people are thinking at the local level. And it's in places like Greater Hazleton that elections are determined. And we saw that in 2016, and it's here where we'll get a sense of what happens tonight or this week.
And these are some of the people, along with people like I Care Today, Dr. Diem, Dr. Kislin, people that have supported us, Sacco Chiropractic, Blaze Alexander, Boyers, Favela Law Firm, Loser and Tire, the Slusser Law Firm, All Care Home Care, Brass Buckle, the Arts Barn, Vito's Lawn and Care. They take care of our place. They do a great job. I don't see Lauren out there cutting my grass, but I'm hoping in a couple of weeks we'll see Lauren do that. BCI, Vito's Coal Fire Pizza Restaurant, and all the other programs we have. We appreciate that very much. These are people who believe in local programming. We'll be back after this. Back to you, Sammy, in the studio.
Your vote on SSPTV News.
Welcome back to Your Vote 2020 here on SSPTV, channel 13 and 513. Also on our YouTube channel. A lot of activity happening now, my friends. Thank you very much, viewers, for tuning us in. We have now Tara Toohill. Normally, Tara is as a political analyst on our election coverage, and Lauren Sacco is taking her place. And Tara, she said that maybe we have to kick you off.
Oh no, I'm getting demoted.
So, Tara, how are things going today?
So today was the biggest voter turnout this morning that I've ever seen. In Butler Township and in Hazleton, the lines were winding down the street. I have never seen it like this. And it was actually very patriotic and very moving to see so many voters coming out in droves and exercising their civic duty and their right to vote.
Mike, let's for the panel, start with Mike. A question or comment you want to make to Tara?
No, Tara, just as always, it seemed like you ran a very professional, very nice campaign, but it more low-key than usual. I didn't see any debates. I didn't see any newspaper. Did you have advanced numbers to say that you were in a big lead, or that was just your strategy going in?
So I really tried to ignore any kind of negativity and just work. And during the pandemic, it was very hard to dedicate time to campaigning because there was just so much work to do with the pandemic. So we created the COVID-19 task force here in Southern Luzerne with Mary Malone from the Chamber of Commerce. We worked with Lehigh Valley Hazleton, and we had daily phone calls during the pandemic. I was supposed to have a debate here, and it was at the end of September or the end of October. We were supposed to have one, and then that was not scheduled or wasn't agreed to on time, as far as I understand. So I always welcome debate, and we had good coverage on both sides in the newspapers, Press Enterprise, and the Standard Speaker. So I think just because of the pandemic focus, I just continued to work for the people day in and day out. And really the getting reelected part of it, it was really secondary to me during this time. And especially in the fall with the back to school crisis, your wife is on the school board and does a phenomenal job. And it's been really difficult for families. And we've been going in and voting to reopen Pennsylvania, get small businesses back to work. And that really was my focus, was just the job at hand during the pandemic.
Charlie, you have any questions or comments for the representative?
Yes, Tara, I mean, in your talks with voters in the district, we saw the consequences of many of Governor Wolf's policies and how they affected small business owners. Do you think there are voters today who are saying, I'm going to the polls because of Governor Wolf, what our Democratic governor has done to our local economy?
So I think that the governor really wins out in a way because people don't understand that the high number of deaths that have happened in nursing homes in Pennsylvania, that's on his watch. We rang the alarm bell on that, and we tried to get help early on, and the governor did not do anything about that. The Secretary of Health removed her own mother from a nursing home, but the people of Pennsylvania were denied that right. The Department of Health and the governor knew that they were allowing COVID positive patients to be put into nursing homes, killing people, literally. And then you see on the national level that Donald Trump gets blamed for things like that, which is grossly unfair because he can't control what governors like Governor Wolf is doing.
Rick, do you have
so
any
I don't know if that connection was made by the voters completely. I really think that the governor gets away with that to some extent, and legislators that will not join us in veto overrides to open Pennsylvania and to open mom and pops, they also get away with it as well. And many of those incumbents will probably be reelected this evening.
Rick, do you have any question or comment for the representative?
Yeah, hey Tara, we miss you tonight.
Do
Twofold,
you?
actually. We certainly do, and always enjoy you on the panel. But twofold, I do want to start with, again, Pennsylvania Governor Wolf with the virus. I think, as I'm out there, people are confused. And again, most people don't really understand government. They don't understand how it works. You're seeing on the national level, they blame Trump. They don't understand how much power governors have and what the state of PA has. I think it's a political game when you look at the states out there of what they've done in the sense of the Democratic governors trying to shut down our states, trying to hurt our economy, which in turn trying to hurt Donald Trump. And I'll let you comment on that. The second question is more specific to your campaign. Again, I told you when you won a number of years ago, I said, if you do all the right things, you're going to win. And I believe you did all the right things. But I am a little surprised, as Mike mentioned, this was a very low-key campaign compared to, Todd Eaches, who was ahead of the state rep party at the time, who you beat, where there was chickens out there, where there were debates, and it was really low-key and actually a very high profiled election. And I'm curious about that because, again, Todd has hustled. He has been out there knocking on doors, doing things, and just curious on your take. So it's actually kind of a twofold question to you.
So one thing that I would say is that for 10 years, I've been here in this community, fighting for this community. I give money to charity. I work hard. Lauren Sacco and the city council people, they were out there working in the community. We were afraid that we were going to have people dropping dead in the streets during the pandemic. We were afraid about food stability. So we had to work on so many different levels locally. And our community was already very unified and came together during the pandemic. So I think that over the last 10 years, you can't be missing from the community. You can't be missing people's funerals. I mean, we've lost community members. We've had big things go on in our community. And that's the one thing, like win or lose tonight, I'm not going to leave this community. I'm not going to abandon this community. And I would certainly find a way to be a productive member of this community. And so, one thing that really bothered me about this race is that someone can move back into the area, claim a party, and just think that they're going to get the votes of those people. So, for example, Latino voters, just to think that because you're a Democrat that you're going to get Latino voters, I find that offensive. And so, this community, I think, maybe they don't agree with me all of the time. Some community members want to have a complete shutdown, but I have to argue with them that you need to have balance. We can conduct ourselves safely in a new normalcy and get people out there. You're not supposed to be quarantining the healthy. You're not supposed to be closing mom and pops that drive 70% of your economy. So those are the issues. And really, maybe during the pandemic, a lot of us just didn't have time to deal with nonsense or negativity in campaigns. And I think that's why this election has been really so stressful for the average voter who just wants to be safe, wants to have a job, wants their kids to be in school, and it makes it really difficult. So I just worked hard for the people. The people know that regardless of how they ever vote, that I will represent them and I will listen to them. And I'm grateful and honored for this community, and I would never abandon this community.
Lauren, do you have any question or comments for the representative?
I don't really have a question, but I do have a comment. I mean, Tara, it's about 10 years I know you now on a personal level, on a business level, on a city level. And I just want the public to know there's never been a time that we have turned to her staff, her office, and we have not been guided or helped, and they have gone above and beyond. And when this pandemic hit, while others were, triumphing on little small things, Tara kind of stuck to it, your staff stayed to it, and you were here for this for business, and the small people hear you, and we thank you.
Thank you. And I do have to say, so I know my staff, they're home right now. A lot of them, they're not at this event here, but they worked really hard today. And we had numerous phone calls, even today while the office was closed, about voters really concerned that they weren't getting to vote. They were being turned away, that their mail-in ballot never came. And my office staff, they work so hard for this community. And I have gotten rave reviews about them. So when people are voting for me today at the polls, they're also voting for a staff that's caring and compassionate and works hard for them. And so I'm very grateful to them as well for that public service.
Thank you, Tara. And whoever wins, we say congratulations to.
Yes.
And I don't know if Lauren wants to give up the seat. You know, she may want that seat from you. Okay.
I'll have to find something else to do.
Okay. You guys have any information? My wife's showing me some results. Mike, have you seen anything on the national level? What's happening? Okay.
No update, Sammy, other than I think Biden was running pretty well in Ohio, a little better than expected, and a little better in North Carolina than expected.
Yeah. For your information and the viewers' information, in August of this year, I spoke to the standard speaker, Andy, and John Patton, and we invited both Representative Toohill and Mr. Eaches to a debate to be held at the end of October. Was sent in August. Tara Toohill responded within 24 hours saying she'd accepted the debate. We got a letter from Attorney Glasberg indicating that there were some concerns that they had in the campaign. They had requested different debates, etc. That's something that is their concern. But we had offered that invitation for them to have a debate. I think it was October 22nd. About a week before that, I got a letter from, or email from Todd graciously accepting the invitation for the debate. However, it's difficult to put something together, especially when we had in our situation, planning time, the pandemic, people off, etc. So it was unfortunate that we could not handle the debate. We're going to go to break right now. We're going to send it to you back at the studio, Sam.
Your vote on SSPTV News.
Welcome back to Your Vote 2020 on SSPTV, Channel 13 and 513, and of course our YouTube channel, Samson Productions. Joining us now is the Republican chairman, Justin Brames. We did invite Kathy Bozinski, but she declined because she was being interviewed by the national news media. Justin, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Sam.
And how does it look for the Republican candidates in Luzerne County?
I'm excited. Throughout this day, the ground game was working hard, the grassroots of the Republican Party, getting people out there to do the vote. It's starting to show. I've been down here in the Elections Bureau the whole time, making sure that people's ballots were being read correctly and that they were being that they would be counted correctly and that there would be no issues. So it looks excellent. We're excited to see Donald Trump. He's going to win Luzerne County, pulling in the votes that are coming in right now. We're seeing our state representatives with Representative Tara Toohill doing an excellent job. We see Representative Aaron Coffer doing an excellent job. Obviously, Karen Bobeck was unopposed. We're excited. I'm excited for these Republican candidates. It's going to look really good.
All right, in terms of the Mullery-Chura campaign, any results on that?
So what we're seeing right now here is the mail-in ballots. What happens is they did roughly about 22,000 mail-in ballots they've opened up. That's what they're seeing on the website. But as they come in with the precincts, they're coming in. They're producing on the website also and being on the showing the results. So it looks like that Chura is starting to tighten the gap against Mullery. It's still too early to say because there's a lot of precincts still out there that need to come in for their results.
In the Toohill H's campaign, what does that look like?
She's doing an amazing job. Tara Toohill, she has, first of all, with the mail-in ballot, did an amazing job with people coming in voting for Tara Toohill on the mail-in ballot. And then now all these precincts coming in showing that they support Tara Toohill and what she has done for us, for the Republican Party, and also for the state of Pennsylvania.
Well, Justin, I want to thank you for coming on. We have interesting evening so far, and I guess you and your party, as well as the Democrats and their party, worked as hard as they could. Anything in closing you'd like to tell the viewers?
I just like to say, the Republican Party made sure that the vote counted for every single individual out there, that their vote would be casted, and that when they went out to the poll stations that they counted. And I'm excited. They did a great job. Along with, I want to commend the Elections Bureau for doing a great job doing the mail-in ballots and really sticking to it and getting a lot of those opened up and getting them counted. They did a great job down here. So I thank you, Sam, for having me. The day's still young, or they say the night is still young, and we got to keep going. So.
Well, in closing, I want to say this to you. If you can become half the chairman that Mike Picosmo was for the Democrats, you're going to make it. You're going to do a good job. Thanks for coming on tonight with a Zoom. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And I meant that, Mike, because I tell you, you brought honor to the Democrats, and you did a great job. Okay, we got a couple of minutes left. Charlie, I'd like to get some of your reactions. I think we may have about 8 minutes left before we wrap it up. Charlie, any comments from you?
Let's see how Luzerne County plays out. I mean, in 2016, Trump won 58% of the vote in Luzerne. It really is important for him to build upon that margin from 2016. He is going to need a dramatic turnout in Luzerne to offset some of those suburban areas. I'm also interested to see, Congressman Barletta earlier mentioned he'll be interested to see how it plays out in Philadelphia. Will there be surprising margins there, especially among silent Trump voters, perhaps in Delaware County, Bucks County, some of those working class parts of the region? But if anything, I will be concentrating in the days ahead, because we may not know tonight, but in the days ahead, how dramatic is the margin for Trump, because that does play a crucial role in the statewide outcome for Trump against Biden.
Well, Charlie, as I mentioned before we started, we're going to do a Zoom show with you and analyze a lot of these things within the next week. So I'm looking forward to that. And thanks for joining us. Stay with us, okay? We're not going off yet. Lauren, I want to get your reaction to what you've seen and what you think.
I couldn't agree with Charles more. I'm very interested to see what Luzerne County does here. I think we're going to be not so surprised. I think it's going to come through the same way it did in 2016. And I'm interested to see what the working middle class thinks and how Philadelphia is going to pan out, because I think Lou Barletta is correct when he says that you won't be seen as much of a default like we've seen in the past.
Okay, and please tell your husband to take it easy on me, will you? Yes,
I will.
he does a great job. I enjoy the pens, I really do.
Okay, thank you.
Rick, what are your comments?
Well, again, it's early in the night, and it's too early to tell on a lot. But again, I'm going to stick with what I said earlier in the night that, I think it's going to be a red wave. I think that you're going to see successes here locally on the political side from the Republicans. I think Trump's going to win Pennsylvania, but I think he's going to surprise a lot of people, and he's going to win a lot more electoral votes than he did 4 years ago against Hillary. So, again, too early to tell, but I think we will have a winner of the presidential race sooner than later.
Michael?
Sam, well, thank you, Sam. And you paid me a very nice compliment before, and I certainly appreciate your kind words. But if you said to me, well, my single biggest disappointment when I was county chairman was 4 years ago, we reached out, we begged Hillary's campaign to get her to come into Luzerne County. She just never came. And again, the first rule of politics is you must ask. Joe Biden has been here. Joe Biden's from Lackawanna County. Joe Biden's been on the ticket twice before in Luzerne County. You have to remember he won twice. He won twice with Barack Obama as running mate. So I think until all the votes are counted in Luzerne County, it's going to be a much closer race. I know the Republicans have picked up registrations, but I think it's going to be closer than Hillary made it 4 years ago because I think Joe Biden's a much better candidate.
As the numbers are coming in, we're looking at different things. Florida, they're saying 95% probability for Trump, and then Pennsylvania right now it's 50-45 in favor of Biden. So I guess we'll be seeing those numbers bouncing around throughout the evening, right, Mike? Is that how it works?
Yeah. The different parts of the state, different parts of the county, and this year, Sammy, is so unique with the mail-ins. And, we just don't know what's going to happen. We won't know anything definitively, I think, until Friday at the earliest.
Mm-hmm. Lauren, for the residents of Hazleton, what do you see in the future in growth and community development and blight and etc.?
We are actually stepping in, and we actually, all 5 of us unanimously voted in to bring in the land bank and to focus on blight. So the future here is pretty bright. You've got a council that's working together up among us and among the mayor as well. So we've got a lot of things up our sleeves. We're small, but we're mighty. And blight is one of our things on our list that will be conquered coming up very soon.
Now, the other councilmen, so everyone knows who they are.
Right now, at this moment, our president is Jimmy Perry. The vice president is Tony Colombo. Then there's myself, Allison Barletta, and Jack Mundy as well.
That's good. Well, I wish you the best. Rick, I want to ask you a personal question. When you had COVID, what kind of symptoms did you have?
Well, I have actually had it twice, and Department of Health called me back and said, you're the only person we knew who had it twice within a 5-month time period. So my symptoms were, to be quite honest with you, and I'm not downplaying it because my aunt was recently in the hospital, some good friends were in the hospital, and it is out there. For me, fortunately, I was a little tired. I had a little bit of a cough, but it never really slowed me down. So, again, my point to everybody is, listen, it's out there. We got to be careful with it, but it can slow us down, and we got to live around it. And I think we could survive around it, and the statistics show it. So, be careful, but don't be afraid.
So you got COVID once, you didn't do it right, so you got it twice, right?
Yeah, I'm working on the third time just to show what it's like the third time. So,
what do you think about that, Charlie? Here's a guy that didn't do it once, now he wants to get wrapped for the second time, huh?
I think 2's enough.
I'm doing all right, right? I mean,
Well, listen, I can't thank you all enough for being on the panel tonight, and of course, I want to thank Blaise Alexander, Boyers, Favela Law Firm, Luzerne Tire, the Slusser Law Firm, All Care Home Care, Brass Buckle, the Arts Barn, Vito's Lawn Care, Attorney Christine Holman, always been a great supporter of us, BCI, Vito's Coal Fire, Pizza and Restaurant, and people like Dr. Kislin, Dr. Diem, who have been strong supporters of our programming. We have the holiday programs, the holiday Zooms that will be coming out. Great opportunity to get the message out on SSPTV. Thank my daughter, Janine, my son, Sammy, who is up in the studio, and of course, the boss here, my wife, who continues to give me good advice. Appreciate that very much. I wish that all of the people after the selection would get together and sit down, have a cup of coffee, and enjoy what life's all about. It's been a very strong challenge, and sometimes things are said that shouldn't be said, and we want to say, let's all work together. I think all of you would agree with that, right?
Very much.
Absolutely.
All right, Sammy, I'm going to throw it back to you at the studio. Viewers, thank you so much for tuning us in, and thank you for supporting SSPTV and local programming. We'll see you next time.
Watch us online anytime at ssptv.com and follow us on Facebook and Twitter.